I mean, people love cheese and shredded cheese, so.
I mean, what are you trying to say?
I'm saying it used to be a mango.
Oh, I love mangoes. Same here, sir. Frickin' delicious.
Plus, this used to be a Japanese mango.
Very exotic.
That's the name of the mango.
Yes, sir, it is.
And people love cheese and shredded cheese, so.
I mean, what are you trying to say?
I'm saying it's.
So you've just come home from buying a brand new LCD, a monitor. I mean, it was about time you got rid of that old 17-inch CRT. But what's this? You open it up and there's no VGA connector. What are these other connectors? What do they do? This is another episode of What's the Difference? DVI versus HDMI versus DisplayPort Refresher Edition. Because Jack wrote this whole script before realizing I made this video 4 years ago. It was 4 years ago!
With up to 4 terabytes of massive storage capacity combined with SSD-like performance, Seagate's solid-state hybrid drives are the fastest way to have it all.
Alright, so guys, for those of you who did watch the older video where we covered all these different display connectors, yes, we've done it before, but yes, it was 4 years ago. So you can check that one out by clicking here, but this is more of a what's changed since then follow-up versus trying to retread the same topic that we've already done before. So we'll start with DVI. Okay. Not much has changed in the past 4 years for DVI, so there's not a whole lot we can say about that. It can still output the same basic resolutions. There's still DVI-I and DVI-D, and you can differentiate between the different types of DVI through the pin layout, so I does analog, D does not. But near the end of 2010, some big industry leaders like Intel and AMD said that they would stop supporting analog and legacy technologies like VGA and DVI starting around 2015. Why? Well, it's because these older technologies have not been keeping pace with other interfaces like HDMI and DisplayPort in terms of new advancements. Next up, we've got HDMI. HDMI stands for High Definition Multimedia Interface. That's kind of a dated name now. We should have like UDMI for Ultra Definition. Yeah. Anyway, it was first released in 2002 when Ultra HD was a twinkle in the eye of some happy television executive somewhere, and is perhaps now the most widely adopted digital video interface. HDMI carries both audio and video signals, and one thing we didn't cover last time around is that there are a variety of different sizes of HDMI connectors. So depending on the application, you might want full-size HDMI, which is known as Type A for things like TVs and PCs. For devices like tablets and video cameras, you might want a Type C connector, also known as Mini HDMI. And moving on to even smaller devices like cell phones and point-and-shoot cameras, these can be found using Micro HDMI, also known as Type D. Now, there have been many revisions to HDMI throughout the years. Version 1.4 can support a max resolution of 4096 by 2160 at 30 FPS, but 1.4 isn't the most recent anymore, just the most common right now. HDMI 2.0 was actually introduced in Q3 2013, and the main differences here is that 2.0 now supports 4096 by 2160 resolution at 60 frames per second, 32 channels of audio, and has support for 21:9 aspect ratios for that movie theater experience. And don't worry, you won't need to buy a new cable for version 2.0 because the hardware on the ends, the actual connectors, are where it's changing, not the cable. Moving on to DisplayPort. DisplayPort, what a confusing name. Why did they call it DisplayPort? They're all display ports if we put a space. But if you have no space, then it's a very, very specific port called DisplayPort. But that doesn't actually mean it only sends video signals either. It can actually be used to transmit audio and video at the same time, just like HDMI. Each one is optional, and there's some auxiliary data that can be transferred. It can even carry things like Ethernet. And what's cool about DisplayPort is it can be passively or actively converted to other display standards like DVI, even VGA, and HDMI quite inexpensively. All right, so what's new with DisplayPort since the last time we talked about it? Well, just like HDMI, there are different revisions of DisplayPort. Version 1.2 saw the addition of Multi-Stream Transport, or MST, which allows multiple displays on a single DisplayPort connector. It requires monitors that are capable of DisplayPort 1.2 daisy chaining, so plugging from one to another, or the use of an MST hub, which I actually have one right here. Hold on just a gosh darn moment here. Look at that. I have a DisplayPort to 3 HDMI hub. Isn't that fancy? All right, in version 1.3 though, DisplayPort is also now able to support resolutions up to 7680 by 430. Sorry, not 1430. That would be too much resolution. Also known as 8K Ultra HD. And that's pretty much it for this episode of What's the Difference on DVI versus HDMI versus DisplayPort Refresher Edition. Let us know down below what type of connection you're using right now for your PC, and as always, like the video and subscribe for more like this from NCIX. You don't actually have to like the video for more like this from NCIX. Even if you don't press like, we're still going to make more, so it's still nice though. We all know that for a signal to get from a DVD player, computer, game console, or other video source to a display, such as a TV or monitor, that we need to connect them in some way. But the pros and cons of the various cable standards can be extremely confusing, even for techies. Let's start with good old-fashioned VGA or D-sub. It's usually got a blue plug on the cable and stays in place with screws on either side of the housing around the contact pins. The advantage of VGA today is that older equipment you encounter, like a presentation projector, is pretty much guaranteed to work with it, but that's about it. Because it's an analog standard, the signal degrades from cable length, wire gauge, the conversion to digital for compatibility with your flat panel display, and from your friend sneaking into your house to steal all the red M&Ms. Blech. Its maximum claimed resolution might not seem that bad at a little over 3 megapixels at 85 Hz, but on any modern display, it just won't look very clear and sharp. Use anything else if you can. Our next standard, DVI, is vastly superior to VGA, but actually on the verge of obsolescence just like it. The connector locks with screws just like VGA, but is physically larger, and the biggest advantage of DVI is its versatility. On the video source side, DVI exists in a number of varieties. DVI-D has only pins for an HDMI-compatible digital video signal, and DVI-I adds signal pins for a VGA-compatible analog signal, meaning with inexpensive passive adapters, it can drive DVI, HDMI, or VGA displays. On top of that, while a single-link DVI connection is limited to 1920 by 1200 at 60 Hz, with a dual-link connection, it is capable of officially carrying 2560 by 1600 60 Hz. Pretty darn good, especially for the time. DVI's drawbacks are several though. The connector is bulky, and unlike newer standards, it doesn't support the same variety of color spaces, and nor does it carry audio or data along with video. Speaking of newer standards, HDMI 1.4. HDMI's biggest strength today is its ubiquity. You can find it or an intercompatible standard on pretty much any computer, modern piece of AV equipment, or display. It supports multi-channel audio and Ethernet data, superior color depth with compatible content and equipment, and it has a wide video format support, including 4K at up to 30 Hz and a variety of stereoscopic 3D formats. It does have some drawbacks though. The connector standard doesn't include a locking mechanism for one thing, and its resolution is limited to 4K at only 30 Hz, and it also doesn't include official support for wide 21:9 aspect ratios or multiple concurrent video streams. HDMI 2.0 addresses everything that I just said except the locking connector, making it almost as good as my personal favorite DisplayPort, but we just haven't seen much of it yet. DisplayPort, though, is almost the complete package. Unlike HDMI, it has a locking connector. It can be converted to every other standard I've mentioned, including VGA, with an inexpensive adapter, and it doesn't require a royalty to actually physically implement on a product. Like HDMI 2.0, DisplayPort 1.2 supports 4K at 60 Hz, multiple video streams over a single cable, audio, network, and other data signals, stereoscopic 3D, 21:9 aspect ratios, and pretty much anything else you could want, with the only things missing being some home theater remote control features and stuff like that. And things are only going to get better with DisplayPort 1.3 adding support for 8K displays, 4K 3D, and adaptive sync to eliminate lag and screen tearing in games. Rock on DisplayPort. Now, you've probably noticed by now that other than differentiating analog and digital video signals, I've been focused on features rather than image quality. That's because unless you're a professional user with specific needs in terms of color spaces you need to work inside, digital is digital, and they will all look the same at a given resolution as long as the image isn't completely garbled and corrupted by a defective cable or something. The other thing I haven't mentioned yet is that there are mini and micro versions that exist for some of these connectors. This is simple too. Basically, other than needing a physical adapter or cable, these don't make any difference whatsoever, except when a mini DisplayPort looking connection has a little bolt next to it. Thunderbolt connectors carry a DisplayPort compatible video signal, but can also connect in series with Thunderbolt devices like external hard drives and whatnot. Speaking of Thunderbolts, the sky is pretty much the limit, guys. Fractal Design has decided to buy a couple of more TechQuickie ad spots for the express purpose of allowing you guys to pick what they do to humiliate me. Last time I got pied in the face. But if you felt like that wasn't creative enough, all you need to do is head over to their Facebook page, linked in the video description, and give Fractal Design your ideas for what they should have me do next. And I mean, while you're at it, I guess you could check out their high-quality computer cases, power supplies, and cooling products. Just a thought. Thanks for watching this Fast as Possible, guys. Like it if you like it, dislike it if you disliked it, and leave a comment if you have suggestions for future Fast as Possibles, or if you just want to, tell me about how tired I look right now, because I just got back from climbing a mountain, and I'm just... Man, it's a miracle I'm even alive right now. As always, don't forget to subscribe for more Fast as Possible
I mean,
episodes.
people love cheese and shredded cheese, so.
I mean, what are you trying to say?
I'm saying it used to be a mango.
Oh, I love mangoes. Same here, sir. Frickin' delicious.
Plus, this used to be a Japanese mango.
Very exotic.
That's the name of the mango.
Yes, sir, it is. And
I mean, people love cheese and shredded cheese, so.
I mean, what are you trying to say?
I'm saying it's